Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Top Billers Toolkit, where me and my twin brother interview top billers from all around the globe to unlock the secrets to their success. Today we're joined by Chris Schwenk. Chris is $1 million biller, and he's got 3 really important, powerful strategies that we want to dive into on today's podcast. Chris's BD was going downhill fast, his response rates were plummeting, but when he decided to start a podcast and invite high-profile guests onto it, his response rate started climbing back up to where it was supposed to be, and it's completely shifted his positioning in the marketplace. We're also going to be talking about how Chris has been using NLP, which is Neuro Linguistic Programming, for about a year now. Every single day he sits down and he does it. It's made him become more confident, it's helped him achieve his goals, and it's helped him bill more. Lastly, we're going to be talking about how Chris has used VAs to save him hours and hours of time every single week, and why getting past that delegation phase is one of the most important phases for any business owner. Guys, this is a great episode. There's a few things we speak about in here that if you follow, I guarantee you will make you more money. Hope you like it. As usual, grab a cuppa or a glass of wine, depending on when you're listening to this, and let's get into it, shall we? Wait a second, guys. Quick question for you. If you could land a new client on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks, how much would that be worth to you? 20, 30, maybe 40K? Well, we have a pretty crazy offer on right now. If you are a recruitment business owner, then we will work with you for free and write you 2 posts at absolutely no cost. And here's the cool part. Other recruiters that have come through this free trial have managed to win new clients. They've racked up hundreds of thousands of impressions and started conversations with top tier candidates. It's completely risk-free, so you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If you're interested, the link's in the description below. If not, no worries. We hope you enjoy the podcast. See you later. Hey there, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today on Top Billers Toolkit. How you doing?
Doing great. It's great weather in Miami today, so I can't complain.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those of you that are wondering, that is a real background that Chris
Yes.
is using, an epic view. I'm very jealous.
Yes.
I've got a view that is probably as high, Chris, but Southampton, not Miami, so it does look a little bit different.
I know. I was afraid we would. It's very rare we do get some cloudy days. I was like, hopefully we get this type of backdrop for you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So I'm going to jump in with the first question, as always, Chris. What's the number one tool in your toolkit, whether it be a mindset, strategy, or software?
Yeah. So right now for BD, I am using a podcast strategy that we can do a deep dive into. A lot of recruiters are kind of like asking me what's going on with that. Is it working? Is it not? How does it work? And all that stuff. So I can I can go into all of that. That's pretty much my best tool for business development at the moment. And that's what I'm doing for all outreach. I mean, I don't even reach out. I do have some automations reaching out, like, hey, I saw you have an opening, but that type of stuff. But when I'm targeting executives, I've identified that was pretty much the best way to increase response rate. Outside of, obviously, the best thing is if you have a job that they want that you're recruiting for, then that is the best way to get executives to respond in the tech space. This would be second for me that I've seen, kind of higher response rates. So
interesting. That's awesome. But before we get into the tool, like the technical, I'm just interested from a seasoned BD professional like you, Chris, about the psychology. Why do you think the podcast gets a higher response rate, and why is it now your go-to tool? What is going on psychologically there? Because I want other people to get their heads around it, of not just the how I do this, but why I'm doing this and why the response rate is better. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you're offering something, for them to, you're giving them value up front, right?
Yeah.
Because I kind of show them some past episodes I've done. I've put a lot of money into it, and I can kind of get into some of the finances of that. Some things haven't worked, some things have worked, some things maybe will work. So, but you're adding value first. And, we got into a position after, kind of the boom of COVID, where, good candidates, they're kind of a dime a dozen. I do mostly staff augmentation for Fortune 500 to 1000s. And, kind of this was been the first time where you have a candidate that's an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. Most of the time that person's getting the job. And you know, probably 2022 when things started to pull back, that was the first time I realized that isn't enough anymore.
Mm,
So just having great candidates is not enough. I was getting beat out with great candidates. So I was like,
well,
I need more. I basically needed more clients. This was the fastest, most efficient way to get responses from high-level tech executives. And I think it'll be more prominent for employees. Like every entrepreneur wants to jump on a podcast. You guys probably get much better response rates than I do because I'm reaching out to executives and kind of hiring managers. Um, Employees, it's a little bit trickier because I'm
mm,
navigating PR. Sometimes PR is blocking them. Sometimes they have to get approval. Sometimes they're afraid to even mention they work at the company. This was stuff I didn't
interesting.
know.
Mm,
I thought it'd be like the entrepreneur mindset where everyone's just going to say like podcast. Yeah, of course. I want to come on and talk and, kind of look like an expert. So,
mm,
um, I think it's, the people that it has worked, what I've identified is I'm starting to see a shift with those type of tech executives, hiring managers. They're late to it, but they're starting to build out their personal brand. And they're realizing
mm.
that's how I'm going to get my next job. That's how maybe I'll get speaking engagements and stuff like that. And they realize they have knowledge that people want to hear. When I kind of smell that going on, the LinkedIn is a little flashier. I'm like, okay, that's my target. And that's who I want to have on the pod. And those people are like dying at the chance. Um,
Love that. And it's interesting. I'm going to be fascinated to go deeper into the roadblocks that you've had, Chris, because you're right. Like, it's probably our response rate is pretty insane. I think it's like, I don't know, 8 out of 10 people will probably come back and say yes for me and Sam. Um, and I can see why. There's no one blocking us. It's literally like there's only an upside, really. But I completely understand in your situation. There's a lot more to think about. I'd love to go back to that moment you said, which is you were being out. There was too much competition, and everyone had good candidates, and that really wasn't enough of a differentiator. Why? What was the thing that made you go down the podcast route? Because like what was the thing that triggered it? Because there could have been multiple different routes you went down, right? And I think podcast is just one of them. Did you see someone else doing it? Did you like what was the thing that triggered it in the first place, do you think?
Yeah, so I have had some mentors in this space, and I think everyone should have kind of an alternative BD method right now besides just outreach because the outreach is automated and AI, and you're getting lost in the shuffle now. So I think you need some sort of alternative. And basically, I had a mentor that taught me how to monetize podcasts, kind of like a flywheel of affiliate deals, brand sponsorships, and I'm getting speaking fees now because I'm building up the YouTube and the podcast. So that's another way.
Mm,
And I'll get into how the strategy has evolved. But at this point, I'm targeting companies. Yeah, I went from like begging people to come on and hopefully they'll give me business. That was a terrible strategy. And then I went to kind of a strategy of being more upfront, saying like, "Oh, you want to come on? Yeah, of course. Like you'd be a great guest and, it'll look great. I pay for this by getting recruitment business. Can you make it, can you make an intro to HR? Can you make an intro to vendor management? Do you
mm,
have anything of your, I just start peppering them at the end of the calls. And so basically my day now is you know, basically my history was agency recruitment, where we're all taking the same managers to lunch and happy hour and sporting events. And then, back then everything was on site. So we were all competing for the same pool of candidates and the same managers and the same openings. So now it's a bit different. Um, and and so now my day now instead of lunches is podcast calls where my assistant is booking calls and saying like, I'm explaining it, I'm showing them past episodes, the edits and everything. And once I get them all juiced up to do it, then I kind of slip in. I am using this as a lead source for my recruitment business. So what can you do? And, and when I say like, my first year, which is true, I lost a bunch of money on it because I wasn't upfront about that. So,
mm.
uh, And people have been way more open. Now it's become a great business development tool that I envisioned. But without that intentionality, it was not good.
Hmm. Really
Really
interesting.
interesting.
Um, I remember you telling me that. So I was transparently, Chris, I was interested and surprised by the kind of forward nature of what you were doing there. For me, um, anyway, there's multiple ways to win business, the podcast, but I was impressed by your strategy and how forward it was, I guess. Um, what I'm thinking is some people would really resonate with that, and other people definitely wouldn't. For the
Mhm.
people that are interested, what's different about those people? Because they're obviously like convinced enough that there's enough value in this process to not only come on your podcast but also give you an introduction as well. So have you noticed anything about what's different about those people at all, or
Yeah, I think when you lay it out for them, they understand the economics of it. Like, hey, this isn't,
mm,
I mean, I was doing all in person the first year, which is obviously much more costly and had, very high priced editors. I've switched to a blend model for economic reasons, and it allows me to target more people. I was too confined to just Miami, and
mm,
just the people that were allowed to come on at Fortune 500s, the companies I wanted to do business with, and people that were local. So I kind of expanded it out, and now it gives me a downsell or upsell. So I get them on a call, and you don't want to say like, "Oh, you don't have any business? I'm not interested," because that's kind of a bad look. So I'll say, "Well, listen, if you don't have any business, you don't have any referrals, you're not even willing to make an intro, that's fine. I still want to talk to you, but we would just do it remote."
mm,
And
that
so
makes
sometimes
sense.
I've
That's
still done
actually
that.
it's quite a good way, actually. Yeah, that's quite a smart way.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
but so I've switched to um, I basically switched to a new model, which is more of a retained model for the company. So I'll say, would your company sponsor, because we're willing to kind of promote what it's like working in tech at such and such company. Um, and so they get PR involved. I get them to sponsor, but I also throw in at the end, okay, at the top level, it's, a few thousand, but I will refund any of that in the first recruitment placement that I do with your company.
That's cool. That's a
That's
clever angle.
yeah. Um, Out of interest, Chris, what's the hit rate? So, like, let's just imagine you get 10 guests who are interested on the podcast, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, love it, want to do it," and then you're like, and then you go in with your your end pitch, which is like, "This isn't free," um, yada yada yada. I'm just curious, what is the do most people are most people like receptive and are like, yeah, cool, yeah, let me just introduce you to HR? Is it like a 50-50? Is it like what's the hit rate on that? Is it pretty good? I'm just curious.
It's pretty good once I get to that point. Now,
Mm,
the outreach is mostly done through LinkedIn and email automation, and then I do LinkedIn Recruiter direct outreach, and then obviously like email automation and then direct email, which I didn't know at first. They're two totally separate things. One is delivered much more, so my VA is just like kind of pounding those email, invitations. If I can book them on the call, and then I get to that point where they're interested and all of that, then the hit rate is pretty high. That it's like, hey, listen, I'm not asking for anything guaranteed. I'm not asking for, just make an intro for me. And if you can't do that, then I'll get back to you about scheduling,
cool.
which I
Mm,
think is fair, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree.
mm.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about the hit rate from, let's say you send 10 messages out, Chris, to say, hey, I would love to invite you on my podcast. What percentage of people respond, do you think?
It's still low. It's still low, but obviously it's going to be higher um, than just asking for like, hey, I'm a recruiter. I can get you great people. No, I'm not niche down. I'm just a tech generalist, which is kind of
Mm,
against the common advice these days. Uh,
mm,
but you know, I don't know. I mean, I know people are doing great doing that, but I just think back to during COVID, I got into a clinical research company, and I got in through the tech space, and they said, "Hey, we have a ton of obviously they had a ton of clinical research work that came during COVID, and they said, 'Can you do this?' I just kind of said, 'Yeah, of course. I know anything about this,' but in the staff augmentation space, it's not rocket science. You match the titles, you match the skill sets, and go. And I mean, that generated $1 million in just the clinical space.
Wow. Okay.
You
So
know,
it's
it was
fine.
it was the COVID boom, kind of an
Mm,
anomaly. But had I said no, I'm a tech guy, I would have lost so much money. So,
mm. Interesting. So it's like you don't need massive volume because once you get a conversion, the upside of what you could gain from it is pretty big. Um, how many, just out of curiosity, Chris, how many intros, let's say over the year, how many intros would you get from this podcast, do you think, on average?
well, it's been more the last, we'll say, 4 months.
Cool. Okay.
I've gotten MSAs, contingent fee agreements signed. I've
Awesome.
gotten a bunch of recs, and it's all just that being very intentional about it. And the right person at a company will want to kind of, they see other people that talking people's ear off on podcasts, and they say, well, damn, no one's asked me to be on one of these. I mean, I saw a gap in the market to, I wanted to create whatever you want to say, the Tonight Show / Joe Rogan of tech executives. Like no one was talking to those people. There's a lot of tech podcasts. They basically partner with the boot camps, which I have some partnerships with them too. But they only partner with the boot camps, interview people that just broke into the tech space, and try to convert affiliates from that. And they've done really well. My mentor in that space, he was making 7 figures a year on his podcast. Like,
Mm.
didn't even have a recruitment business back end. He was making 7 figures on
Wow. Just the podcast.
just
That's
off his
amazing.
podcast.
Mm.
So, like, it is a much different muscle than the recruitment muscle and the BD muscle. So, another thing is, I mean, don't be afraid to get mentors. If you are trying a podcast or we'll call it alternative method, right? There could be other ways you could host job fairs, you could host local meetups, where you're asking maybe your ideal client to speak or something like that.
Mm.
A mentor in that space, because we don't know that space. We know the recruitment space, but we don't know that space. So,
Mm.
basically, I would say anyone that is listening to this, they're interested in, okay, maybe I'll start a podcast to target my ideal client. Get some help, because that back end monetization allows you to keep going. Because you might not convert many clients right off the bat. I mean, I did in my first year. But I mean, I probably made 20 grand in the outside money.
Mm.
That fueled me to get to this year. And now it is converting clients very well. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I think same for me and Sam. It took us a good like 12 months to pick up traction with our podcast, maybe even longer. But then I always say this to people: we try not. I try not to shove podcasts down people's throats too much because some people resonate with it, a lot of people don't. I think they're kind of I don't know why people don't see it in the same way as us too, Chris. I think it's because it's quite a long-term activity, and you really have to put in quite a lot of work before you typically see the rewards. But I feel like when you do get to that stage, it's just probably one of the most powerful things you can do for your business on a branding perspective. From mine and Sam's experience, it's like definitely one of the needle movers of our business. Sam, would you agree? Like in terms of that, one of those needle movers that made one of the biggest difference in terms of brand awareness, leads, revenue, association. Don't know what you think.
Yeah, totally agree, dude. Question I had, Chris, because we kind of know what you're doing that's working. I'm curious what you did at the beginning that didn't work, like in terms of the positioning or how you, because you said the thing that changes, you had intentionality with the podcast. So what were you doing before that wasn't working, just so people know what to avoid if they decide to do the podcast BD route?
well, I just assumed they would kind of put two and two together, and never,
Mm,
never assume that. Because you have to kind of present it as you'd be this great guest. So they think they're doing you a favor. And then at the end, I would say, like, I'd mentioned that I was in the recruitment space. So that's how, I'd always try to weave it into the conversations. And then after the podcast was done, I would be like, hey, can you help me out? And it's always like, yeah, maybe, it wasn't like, I was like, oh, well, glad I wasted all this time and money making you look like a star. So, you know, it was like, geez. So now I'm just, I needed to way increase the outreach, and I brought on a VA about a year ago, a full-time VA, and he's just crushing, I just give him lead lists and just to like invite all these people to the podcast and set up calls here. And now when you have an abundance of guests and the ability to go remote, I could stay consistent without needing to kind of force people into this. It had to be like, to stay consistent, I needed to have anyone that was willing to come to the studio. The remote kind of gave me more flexibility. So
Love that. Yeah, that's really a really important detail that like you set up a podcast, you invited a decision maker, you said, oh, I do recruiting by the way, and kind of expected two and two just to happen, which a lot of people do. I think a lot of people expect that with BD as well, instead of being more intentional, but you got them on and now you're like, hey, very clearly this is going to be great for you, but I need to make money, so you have to give me something in return. It's a very great detail that could change someone's entire BD journey with podcasts. I think it's a really, really great point, Chris. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to throw in, because I have a slightly soft. I know there's going to be recruiters here who maybe want a slightly softer approach, which is also works, because I think we've had like 2 or 3 people on the podcast who also have monetized their podcast like you, Chris. And so there's more than one way to do it. No right way. I think it depends on your personality. But the way that I did it, which worked quite well for me, was get them on a pre-call, ask them loads of questions, and then save a small portion of the end, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, to talk about your service and kind of ask them a little bit about what they're doing, if they have any hiring needs, or obviously this was related to recruitment, but it's almost like a soft sales call at the end, if that makes sense. And you kind of suss out if it's going to be worth speaking to them and selling harder on after the second call. Does that make sense? Or have I
Oh yeah.
use it? Yeah. So it's kind of like
pre-interview, it's great.
Pre-call, a little bit of a sales, not sales pitch, but like a understanding their needs. If they are a good fit, podcast, and then sell at the end, soft sell at the end, if that makes sense, and then keeping in touch. So that's another avenue that you can do. That's just very similar, but a bit of a nuance in terms of how you approach it. Oh, that was a long-winded answer.
Awesome. Cool. What was I think we were there was a few other topics, Ben, on your questions. I think we've covered the podcast bit, unless you have any more specific ones. I'm curious to delve into the other ones.
Yeah, I think the thing that really interested me, Chris, if you're willing to go deeper into this, is the meditation and NLP. I just found that fascinating. I think me and Sam are going through a bit of a mindset shift at the moment, and would love to hear more about what that is and why you're doing it, so the audience can hear.
Yeah. So some people may think it's a bit woo-woo. I definitely did. I'm a firm believer in it, and so basically it's a practice I've gotten into over the last year. It's meditation, it's NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and you're pretty much closing your eyes on the couch or in bed, and you're lying down listening to a script. And I have different ones that I listen to. I have a personalized one, which is kind of targeted on my goals and where I want to be. And I work with a kind of performance coach. I call him my guru. His name's Mark Dama. Shout him out. Also a fellow countryman of you guys.
Awesome.
But yeah, so he's worked with some very high level people. Sam Ovens, he's worked with.
We love Sam Ovens.
I'm an absolute Sam Ovens fanboy.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
like one of our heroes. So that's amazing to hear.
Yeah,
He must be good if he's worked with Sam Ovens.
Yep, Ty Lopez, Sam Ovens. I know Ty's
Cool.
gotten into some trouble recently, but it's pretty good. So, but essentially, so I'm like, again, at the end of the year, last year, I was kind of like, do I keep going with this or not? I mean, no one had told me that the podcast idea was a bad idea. Everyone talked to business experts, entrepreneurs I know, they're like, oh, it's a great idea. I'm like, yeah, but it hasn't worked. So what now? Do I keep going? And so I started working with Mark, and essentially he put me in this like kind of meditated, tranquil state. And, he's like talking to you through it. And you pretty much you sit down in a room with yourself in the future
Mm,
and you talk to yourself, which is, really whatever you want to say. Uh, at another dimension, you're doing it, or some people just like it's just your brain kind of telling you subconsciously what it wants you to know. And so basically, he put me in a room with my future self, and I kind of said, "What do I do?" And basically, that future self was just like, dude, just keep plowing forward. You're like what you're doing is right. You just need more. You need more time, you need more volume, and then you come out of that and you're much more relaxed. Your mindset, when you're doing that every day and you're putting yourself in the shoes of your more successful self, your day-to-day problems become much more manageable and you're much more kind of confident and decisive in them. Like the indecision is the killer. It's not the wrong decision. Obviously, you can make some bad decisions, but it's the indecisiveness. That's the killer. So it's made me just like, okay, boom, let's do this. Let's try this. Okay, like, is it working? Is it not? You're much more confident in your day to day because
mm,
you've seen yourself do it. And as we talked about on the pre-interview, the best way to describe it is like, imagine the college version of you talking to the high school version of you. And like the problem
mm,
at school, oh my God, whatever, this girl doesn't like me. And then the college version of you is like, dude, that's not actually like, just do this, do that, who cares? Get over
mm,
it. You're like, you could be way more cocky. And it's the same thing if like the $10 million version of you is talking to the $1 million version of you, net worth, you're going to be like, dude, that's not really that big a deal. Just do this. You're going to be you're calling plays like that. And
mm,
to me, that's what NLP does. Um, that's what I do every day. And I put myself kind of in that state of, okay, like, one thing I do is I have a spreadsheet that tracks everything, all my revenue. Like we said, I kind of a flywheel of monetization. Also do career coaching for people. So it's brand deals, affiliate deals, it's hourly consulting for recruitment, it's perm placements. Everything is stacked up by account and or by person if it's the career coaching. And I have there's a number at the bottom of the spreadsheet total, grand total for the year. And so the number that I want to see when I'm kind of in that meditative state, I'm seeing that.
mm. Interesting.
Love that.
Really fascinating. I've got quite a few questions around that, Sam. I don't know if
Sure.
you have.
I've got
Um,
tons. It's really interesting timing as well because me and Ben are literally going through. We've been through this mindset NLP scripts kind of thing before, but I'm jumping back into it, forgetting how powerful it was when I did it like 5 years ago, and now I'm getting back into it. So it's just funny the timing. Um,
mm. I think
but
we realized the same thing, didn't we, Sam, when we were doing it, when we were actively focusing on a similar process to you, Chris, when we were visualizing our future, visualizing what we wanted. Um, there was no downside. There was literally no downside. It was only up, like more exactly what you said, which is more positive, making decisions faster, getting over problems, getting over bad things faster. It was incredible actually how much of an impact it had. I've dabbled with hypnosis, which is, I'm NLP. I know is quite specific, but I think there's a little bit of a crossover. I think with hypnosis
Oh yeah.
and NLP, and that was like definitely like a huge shift in my mindset when I did that. Um, sorry, Sam, what were you going to say?
no. That's really interesting. And I was just going to say that I don't know if this is a similar thing, Chris, but like the course I'm going through at the moment is a guy I know I've been following for a while, Charlie Morgan, who's also a kind of protege of Sam Ovens, funnily enough.
Oh
Um,
wow.
he the mindset course I'm going through now is about shifting paradigms. So, whenever you want to get to the next level, there is a paradigm typically that needs to be broken, doesn't there? Like the 1 million Chris is going to be different to the 10 million Chris, and the 1 million Sam is going to need to break paradigms to get to the 10 million Sam. I'm just wondering if there's any paradigms that you've started to, obviously don't share any personal ones, but I'm just wondering if there's any like business ones that you are starting to shatter through the NLP stuff you're doing? There might not be, but I'm just curious if there's anything that you've noticed in order to get to the 10 million Chris or the 20 million Chris or whatever number you
Yeah.
have in your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to realize you have to work back from that number and kind of realize, okay, well, what would that be per month?
Mm.
Well, how do we get there? And here are my revenue streams. Some people, it's only the recruitment business. For me, that it was that for a while. And the thing is, like when you're red hot, uh, like I was during COVID, I went from pretty much like in the staff aug space, a million, I was like the $1 million biller, top guy at the company. And during COVID, it doubled. So like,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, then it all like pulled back to where I was
Mm.
before. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Obviously I added a lot of expenses, as you can see. Yeah, it's not cheap in Miami. So, I was like, I need something very high leverage. And that's kind of where the social media aspect came in. And as far as paradigms, that's what I really look at. I mean, during my meditation, I have a number for each of my kind of revenue streams and where we are now and how do I get to that point? Because if I hit all those points, now that number at the bottom fits. Now it's a reality. So I'm probably taking on too much, as most business people would say. But I think in the long run, it's going to work. I think just the podcast on its own. I mean, it has, I'm still at the five-figure as far as podcast monetization level. A couple of monetization pathways is for views, and then, like I said, the affiliates. That's a couple grand a month. The brand deals are a couple grand a month. I'm working on long-term ones. And you can get a long-term brand deal for maybe 10 to 20K for the year, and that
Mm.
just funds everything. And I want to get to the point where the social media, essentially is my primary revenue driver, to the point I have no time to even do that much recruit. I can pick and choose the recruiting and just take
Mm.
the best, highest level fees that are the most locked down, and just kind of send off the other ones to companies I know and just kind of take revenue splits on those. So that's the ultimate goal.
Mm. Awesome. Love that. I want to jump back into the NLP thing, if that's okay, Chris. Just want
Yeah,
to kind of dig deeper into
sure.
it. So is it an everyday thing? Are you literally putting in your headphones, listening to the script every? I think I did it every morning and evening when I was in the hypnosis stage. Is it just once a day in the morning, or how does it work?
It's at least once a day. Sometimes if I have trouble sleeping in the middle of the night, instead of tossing and turning, I just go right to it. Just
Mm.
throw it in there. And I have a lot of Joe Dispenza, probably between 20 to 50 minute different ones. Again, I have a personalized one for all my goals. And it just helps, whatever you envision, whether it's okay, it's the new Lamborghini, and then you can feel the weight of the key at the dealership drops in your head, stuff like that is what
Mm.
I like to visualize. The
Mm.
smell of the leather type, that type of stuff, right?
Mm.
So, but it's at least once a day. If I'm, what I find is when I'm overstressed, like maybe I'll just say I'm gonna stop what I'm doing, just kind of hop in, knock it
Mm.
out for 20 minutes, then get back to it. Um, that's
It's almost
that's the effective thing.
it's almost like at every possible, well, maybe not every possible moment, but in a lot of scenarios, you're just trying to like program your mind for this positive way of thinking, which is exactly what we were doing again back in the day when we were doing this, which is interesting. Um, I did have another question, but I've literally completely forgotten about it. Um,
I mean,
Sam, do
so
you
I
mind?
used to be very like, like a lot of people come on like it's beast mode, it's got you can get very far with that. But it's not ideal. Like that mindset is not ideal for strategy. And then, in the recruitment space, when things are going well, beast mode is great,
Mm.
because you just need to do more. But we've all, I mean, this is my 18th year in recruiting. So had good months, bad months, good quarters, bad quarters, all that stuff. And it's like, I mean, you can have a scenario where you have 8 people in play interviewing at the final stages and you don't get one of them.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, you go over
brutal.
it. And it's
Mm,
like you don't have that much backing up that because it took you a lot of time to get those people in play. So
mm,
starting from square one, you thought you were like, oh, maybe go 5 out of 8. Worst case, 2 out, you get 0.
mm,
Beast mode can be tougher in those scenarios. It
mm,
can be very tough, actually, you know?
Mm.
mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I can't imagine having 8 deals on the go and then not having any of them
Yeah,
convert. That
it's
must be
mental.
absolute kick in the gut.
Yeah.
Did that actually happen to you, Chris, or was that just a yes,
Oh, yeah,
a
no,
figure?
it's happened multiple times. It's
Wow.
happened multiple times. I had one time, but here's the thing, like I couldn't even specifically, because on a long enough timeline, I don't remember the specifics of any of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I get you.
Yes.
Mm,
But in the moment, it does suck if you're not visualizing that future. Is what
mm,
like I think I had a scenario once where it was like there were 5 people in play. I had 4 of them. You think you're going to get that one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had two
That's
for five.
God. That's
Man.
annoying.
And so just
The
to, sorry, I just want to
Go ahead.
clarify because it's really interesting is that the beast mode will get you so far, you do more volume. The NLP, the power of it in the shitty moments, Chris, is that you have something that you're visualizing and you see the future. Is that where the NLP starts to take over? Like you've got your vision for the future, as opposed to in beast mode, you're not necessarily visualizing the future, and so things are going to hit you harder. Is that the right way to look at it? I'm just curious if I've missed anything there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's because, when you're visualizing it, when you're having those visuals of it, it's a certainty, in your head. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So it's just like,
Mm,
okay, yeah, well, yeah, I went 0 for 8, but that's a blip on the radar because I know where I'm going. Um,
mm,
like I had one last week where, someone's breezing through the interviews and it seems like a done deal, and then they get beat out. So, again, what I've realized through my career is when my best clients are hiring a lot, I'm really good. When they're not, it can be tougher. So the key is you just need more best clients, right? So, um, that's where, like that's the one thing that, from a macro sense, I'm like, oh, why was this better than this? Well, some of my best clients were hiring. Okay.
mm. I literally just had this epiphany. It's kind of random, but I was like, what if every recruiter did nothing else, like forgot about all the tactics and strategies and just focused on their mindset and like listened to a recording once a day for like 30 days or like for 2 months, 3 months, how much of a difference that would make to their business. It would be quite a fascinating experiment. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but it'd be quite crazy. I reckon that in itself would have more impact than any possible strategy or tactic on the market right now if
Yeah.
they just did that. Because I feel
That's
like if
what
you
I
have that
realized.
mindset, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I got to that point where I was trying all these new strategies, and I'm like, it's not the strategies.
Mm,
I have to fix.
yeah.
So it's like throwing shit against a shitty wall. Like,
Yeah, so true. And I feel like to add to that, it's like the reason it's you is because everyone's kind of smart and capable enough to figure it out and do the work. If you know what I mean, like we have so much access to information, like all of us can find the answers with enough drive and determination and belief. Kind of that's what I'm starting to figure out, Sam, as we're going through this
100%. Yeah.
process. I'm like, actually, we can do it. We just have to believe for long enough in order to actually execute, do the work, experiment, fail.
And like Chris said, see the future as well. Because once you
The
see the
future,
future
yeah.
and you can believe it and it's certain, as Chris said, you're much less likely to stop or give up when things get
Yeah,
tough,
yeah,
or
yeah,
divert
it's like
into the next shiny
just
object.
speed bump. It's just, bad news, bad things business wise are just a speed bump for you because you know where you're going.
mm, yeah. I
So
love that. And this is the question that I forgot earlier, Chris. The personal recording. How do you create that? Is it your own voice going through the goals, or like how is it? How did you create the personal recording?
So I found someone on Fiverr,
Mm.
and someone on Fiverr that are professional voice specialists.
Oh, that's so
Love it.
cool.
Yeah, you can prompt. I mean, I had a prompt that my guy gave me, and you fill out all this information about where you want to be and your goals and what you do. You put that information through a prompt, and whatever AI you're using will
Mm,
create that script. And then I had the guy read it on Fiverr with meditation music behind it.
that's so
Oh,
cool. I've
clever.
never heard of that method before, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Because
That's really
typically
clever.
I've recorded it myself with my voice. So it's interesting that you got someone else to do it, Chris. With like it saves a lot of time as well. And I'm guessing
Well,
it has
I
a
also got sick of my voice. I was like, I don't want to hear me anymore. I want to hear someone with a little bit more like. And the good thing is, I guess you could also maybe update the voice every 6 months or something if you got bored of
Yeah.
that voice,
Yeah.
or have like three different voices. I just think that's really clever. I really like that. I'm gonna
Well,
do do
I
that.
think the key is like set a goal that is, okay, not don't set $1 billion goal. Great.
Mm,
Like it's just pointless. Like set a goal that is a little uncomfortable,
yeah.
where it's
Mm,
like, oh, okay, well, man, that's going to be hard, but yeah, I guess it's possible. Like that's the type of goals you want to set. And then once you achieve those, then you update the script.
yeah. Yeah.
love
Absolutely.
that.
I love that. That's a lovely little golden nugget there, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else to say around the NLP meditation side, Chris, that we haven't mentioned? It's okay if there isn't. I'm just curious.
No, I would, I would say start with some Joe Dispenza meditations. You can just get those on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes, put on the YouTube, put on your headphones, throw those in, just try it for 30 minutes, try to focus on it. Some of them, yeah, like the hypnosis and some of the NLP ones, you don't even have to focus on it. It's just literally talking to your subconscious.
Mm,
So those are pretty cool too. I mean, in my apartment building, when I'm walking the stairs, it's very mundane. I don't have my eyes closed, obviously. My fault.
that would be pretty impressive, Chris, if you could do that.
Yeah, I just partially, right. But it's kind of the same thing over and over. So you can kind of get into a meditative state, and I throw on the NLP when I'm in the stairwell too, running the stairs.
Mm, that's
Clever
cool.
man. Using
Really love
all
that.
those like dead moments to upgrade your brain essentially
Yeah,
when other people would maybe use it to like listen to the news or listen to stuff that's not gonna make you feel very good. Um
yeah, yeah. You
yeah,
just got
it's
to get that stuff in your head as much as possible, and
100% man. Totally
you know,
agree.
it's just like that natural. It's kind of like a natural energy versus a caffeine energy.
Mm,
When like if you listen to just motivational stuff, it can help you. It definitely helped me at times, but I think this is more just like long-term endurance type of energy. Like I'm just
mm,
constantly just doing stuff. Like I don't, yeah, nothing really shakes me because I'm seeing the future. So
mm,
I love that. I love that. Um Out of interest, this kind of going back to the NLP, when did you start? From my recollection of doing it, and I'm getting back into it, it happened subtly, and I didn't really notice the change. It would like all of a sudden, thought back, and I was like, oh, I am more positive on a daily basis. I'm less shaken. I feel more confident. Um, I'm curious, was there a point in time, Chris, when you were like, yes, the 8 month mark was the sweet spot, or the 9 month mark, or the of doing it every day, or was it kind of like I just said, a bit unconscious, so to speak?
it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. When I had that exercise of sitting down with my future self, um, again, 2 years ago, if someone said this, I'd be like, okay, buddy. But I was able to get in that, hypnotic state. And yeah, I mean, and again, I needed to hear that, so it's probably my own brain telling me like, no, this will work. And now it is working. So you just have to keep going with this strategy and over a long enough timeline with enough reps, like do as many reps as, obviously putting out more episodes is contacting more people and getting more exposure. Um, it will work. So
mm,
that was game changing. And then from there, I was all in. And
Awesome.
and some recruitment deals did, they were already in play before, but they did close after that. So that made it kind of gave me some instant like, okay, this is legit. So
mm.
Cool.
now I'm all in. So
Love it.
Interesting.
What what I find fascinating about this whole, because essentially what you're doing with this NLP is you're reprogramming your brain to some degree. Like you're shattering certain beliefs. And what I found interesting with this guy's course that I'm going through is that all of us have so many beliefs that were set in at like a certain point in our life, whether it was as a kid, maybe your dad said cold calling will never work or whatever, or you saw your dad not make a lot of money and so money was hard to come by, or there's just so many beliefs that are set in at a young age, and you can shatter that whenever you want by using certain scripts and just hammering them into your brain.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's what I'm finding really interesting, is how many like beliefs are still uh solidified in my head that happened earlier on in my childhood that actually they don't mean anything. They're just I just need to reprogram my brain. um so yeah, just want other people to listen to that. Like if you have any shattering beliefs that need shattering, then you can just reprogram your brain. It's quite a simple process. It just
I
takes
think a
time
lot of
and
people
effort.
don't even realize
Yeah, you
that
need
it's
to
happening.
understand what beliefs you need to shatter in the first place, but
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
yeah, that is the tough part. You're right.
But some people, like, your brain does not want you to be successful.
Yes.
Is
Mm,
what you find out about people.
Yeah.
And, some people, this wasn't my scenario, but some people's, whatever their parents told them, whatever, rich people are evil, like
Yeah.
that rich family across the street is evil. And in your head, like, you're like, oh, I don't want to be evil. There's like
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
things
mm,
you hear about that people have these beliefs. And limiting beliefs. Again, I used to think that was all woo-woo stuff, but it's definitely it's powerful if you buy in.
Totally
mm.
agree, man. Yeah, I'm
Love that.
excited about the new journey.
We are coming towards the end of the pod, Chris. This has been a fascinating conversation. Would love to end on VAs because I know you've talked about it in bits throughout the podcast, or you mentioned a couple of lines. Um, when did you hire your first VA, and what's been the most effective use of VAs for your business so far, do you think?
So I experimented with it 2 years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I'll say
Mm,
I had him do some short tasks. It didn't really pay off. Send out some cold emails and stuff. But when you hire them full time, then you can fully, like, I'm a big Dan Martell buy back your time
mm,
person, which I recommend anyone reading before they take on a VA. I hadn't read his book and I tried to take on a VA. It didn't work.
mm,
Now, once I did, I was like, all right, now I need to get a VA full time, 40 hours a week. And there's just so many in the recruitment business, there's so many administrative tasks that for
mm,
years, like, I mean, basically, like, months of my life, if you stack up all the time I spent submitting a candidate into a vendor port, like staff augmentation at big companies, you have to submit the candidates through these vendor portals,
mm,
stuff like that, drafting emails, doing the outreach, the cold outreach with direct email, sending the LinkedIn messages, like the LinkedIn recruiter messages for the podcast. He's doing all that, and he's doing lead sourcing for me. Basically, basically what I do is if I'm about to do an administrative task or if I'm halfway through it, I stop myself and I say, wait a minute. If I put on Loom, show him how to do it, I never have to do this again. So,
mm,
like, yes, in the moment, it's like, I could just do this. It's so much easier just do it myself. But I think staffing agencies, they waste so much time on administrative tasks, especially just around, a lot of these vendor portals. Like, I don't touch
mm, mm,
he does that. So I just said I give him a thumbs up. A couple things he can't do. He can't, you know, he doesn't have 18 years experience. He can't identify a good candidate for some of the high
mm,
level roles. The lower level roles, I'm just like, hey, if someone sends us someone, you can send.
mm,
I give him full authority. He posts all my jobs on LinkedIn, which I get great traction on those. So I just say, he knows what jobs to post and what not to. And then he'll literally kind of aggregate any candidates or responses we get. And he knows he gets all their information and then he presents it to me. So I don't do any of that.
mm.
And
That's
just the
awesome.
time saving is like massive.
Mm. I think from mine and Sam's journey of hiring more people for help, it was like the easiest task can sometimes get brushed over because it's like, oh, they're so easy. And then you've got all these lots of little easy tasks. And it's like, oh, we need to focus on the hard thing. But actually, the easiest things stacked up are the things that I feel like you should get rid of straight away, because that's the stuff that kind of sits on your desk and it's always there and it can be there for years. And it's like, as you say, if you stack that time up, it's like months of your life of doing like the most basic stuff. Just from mine and Sam's experience, so that was interesting. It's like, actually we had loads of easy stuff that we shouldn't be doing that was so simple to pass off to a VA. Pretty interesting.
What else he does with the YouTube, I'm getting speaking engagements, but you guys probably get too, but you have to apply, like call for speakers and stuff like that. So this morning he had a list of, I had ChatGPT aggregate 20 different call for speakers in the tech space. I kind of teach people, the candidates, about LinkedIn on these. And so I have he prepared that presentation and now he applies for speaking engagements for me. And I've been getting paid on those too. So
that's awesome. Love that. Love that.
So to me, it's a must have. Agencies are they'll be afraid to kind of outsource that. Like I said, like the vendor management function, submitting the candidates, approving the interviews and stuff like that. They'll be afraid to kind of outsource that, but to me, it's not rocket science. If it's not rocket science, then get it off your plate.
Really last question from me. How many hours do you think your VA saves you every week, Chris, if you were to just have a rough guess?
Yeah, well, it is the saving. I have no idea, because he's just doing extra stuff. He's doing some stuff I would be doing, some stuff that I wouldn't even be able to get to.
Yeah.
So yeah. I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
But it's making, it pays for itself easily.
Yeah.
But you said he's working, is it 40 hours, did you say, at the moment? Yeah. So that's 40 pretty hours insane.
Of tasks just there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
which is nuts.
Yeah. 40 hours a week. Sometimes he's like, hey, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Look at the LinkedIn response. He doesn't always have a ton, but when he does, it's insane, the time saving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's interesting, because it's not just the tasks that you're currently doing. It's like projects that you never got round to that would actually push your business forward in some way. Like your speaking gigs, for example, Chris. And that's what I've noticed as well, is like, actually, when you have more help, that you actually work on other things that you just never would have been able to get round to. And then it adds a ton of value in like 3 months' time, because you fixed that thing or you've gotten quite far with that project. So it's a really good point. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. That absolutely flew by. Can't believe how quickly that went, but thank you so much for joining us. We managed to get through some very juicy topics and you gave some really valuable insight into your day today. So thank you, mate. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. I had seen a bunch of your episodes before, and then obviously I watched a bunch more. So I've been a long time viewer, which I think for you guys and Ben Mena, I wish this type of information was not out there in the recruitment space 10 years ago. There was everyone just kept their knowledge to themselves. There weren't these big forums, and now everyone's kind of sharing the knowledge, which, I invite, I pick up something. Maybe hopefully people picked up something on this episode, but I always pick up something on everyone's episode, where 10 years ago, the mentality was your competition, I'm better than them. So what do they know that I don't? But now script is totally flipped, where I'm like, I don't care who they are. They might have something that I'm not doing that I can implement. So
love
awesome.
That,
that's Chris. A great ender.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Chris. Loved it. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Tune in for another episode next week, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Peace and love.